So in this video, we're going to be looking at using black and white charcoal on a gray toned paper. That way you can really emphasize highlights and shadows easily. And that really is going to create an awesome contrast of light and dark. So it's a great way to push those light and dark areas, especially if you're someone who struggles with contrast and you're used to creating more of just a one-tone monochromatic value. So this will really help to push yourself to force those highlights and shadows. Find the lightest gray paper that you had in your art kit to work with for this. So using this lighter one is going to work for practice because it's not the nicest drawing paper. So this one is better for sketches, and then save the darker gray for the actual project when you get there. But I'm starting out, and I went through with the black charcoal using hatching. So I'm just starting with the hatching section first. And I drew those lines a lot closer together and pressed harder on the left where it's the darkest, and then started to fade into the lighter value by slowly lightening the pressure of my charcoal and spacing those lines further and further apart. And same thing with that white side. So I'm starting out and I'm just doing the hatching from the right to the left, and I was pressing a lot harder on the right side and fading that into the left by spreading apart the lines a little bit. I would definitely go over both of these 2, maybe even 3 times just to emphasize that value change and really make the dark as you can and the lightest section as light as possible. But now we're going to move on to the cross hatching. And cross hatching is great to, again, just really emphasize that value change. So it's going to push the hatching even further and make those darkest areas very dark and the lightest areas great highlights. So I'm starting at an angle there, crossing over those sections as I go. And that's going to help to just create that value change a little bit easier versus doing straight up and down and then trying to go horizontally as I overlap them. If I'm drawing my lines horizontally, it's going to be a lot harder to do those long lines and keep it consistent with value change. So this way I'm just able to do small lines and keep them closer together and then spread them further apart and press lighter as I get towards the highlight section. Now I'm going back over with the white charcoal, and this is going to push those highlights even more, and then in the middle we're going to get a good gray tone by mixing the white and the black, and then obviously that dark section leave alone. Don't go over that at all with the white charcoal. So you can just fade and blend into that. So I'm going over one more time vertically just to really emphasize that lightest section and try to make the blend as smooth as possible from light to dark. And then this last rectangle is going to be for shading. And with shading, again, I'm using small circles, and that's the best way to really make everything as smooth as you can. That way there's not going to be too many lines, or you're not really going to be able to see those sections of overlap as much. So this helps to really fade the value change. And I'm making my circles a lot larger as I get closer to the lightest area, which helps to blend that value so it's not as dark. So the smaller, closer together circles will work great for the dark sections, and then start to expand them and make them wider as you get towards the lighter sections. And definitely continue to overlap with the charcoal. So don't just do one pass by shading and call it finished. Try to go over it a few times to really darken those darker values and then eventually lighten the lighter areas. So now same thing with the white charcoal. I'm just doing the smaller circles closer together for the highlights. And then I'm going to try to fade those into the dark value by making my circles slightly larger. And I'm not making all of my circles start and end at the same point, so I'm not being very consistent, and it's those inconsistencies that will help to smooth things out. So I'm making some circles larger and then some a little bit shorter, and just kind of rotating and varying it up, making it kind of random. I'm not overthinking it. But by keeping it randomized like that, it's helping that fade become a lot smoother. So just fading that light section into the dark area as well.